to another Peaceful Solution Character Education Program certification class. We are tuning in online tonight and just wanting to encourage everybody to please keep attending while we are having classes online, and tell your friends about it so that they too can learn how to apply the peaceful solution in the workplace. Tonight we are continuing. Last week we started into Chapter 5 of the Workplace, Building Moral Excellence in the Workplace manual. And we had gone through procedure number 2 up to the point of getting into the reading. So I want to start tonight just reminding you what procedure 2 said, okay? So we're going to read procedure 2. Ask students, how many have heard the saying, you have to give respect to get respect? Allow them to share their thoughts on this saying. Inform students that the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program teaches that respect should be automatically given to all people because all people have value and deserve to be treated respectfully. And then it says, and we did go through questions that have been sent out and asking that question, have you ever heard that statement, and what were your thoughts on it? We went over that last time. And then it continues here saying, explain, and then, you know, these are instructions for the instructors of the Peaceful Solution, taking it into the workplace. Explain that in our modern society, there are many negative influences that can affect our concept of respect and the way in which we demonstrate respect to others. Choose students to read portions from the introduction on page 81 and then discuss. Okay, so that's to get your class involved. So we're going to turn over to page 81, and you can see the title of this lesson here up on the screen is Chapter 5. Topic is respect, give it freely. Okay, so that's what we're talking about in Chapter 5. It's all about respect. And the quote at the top says, nothing, and you can underline that, should stop us from being respectful to each other. Nothing. They repeated it, you see. So this is right away getting in the mind that there is nothing at all that should interfere with our desire to show respect and our intentions to show respect. And a lot of things will come at us to make that difficult at times, but what this lesson is really stressing is it's always a choice, all right? It's always a choice to be respectful. So let's get into the introduction here. It says, a work environment without respect is an environment that most find extremely difficult to function in. In fact, many people will quit their jobs under such circumstances. Okay, so when there is a lack of respect, it can cause great distractions and distress, and it can make it hard for employees to function and focus and get their work done. They're pulled off course by whatever situation is taking place between each other or between them and their employer, or even the customers. So these things can be very time-consuming and not productive for the company. In fact, many people will quit their jobs under such circumstances so they'll just, if it's too much, if it's an ongoing stressful situation of disrespect, they will just quit. So without respect, our interactions could be callous, hurtful, and inconsiderate. Okay, so remember in Chapter 4, where we were talking about asking, we put the thought in the mind, what if you went a day without asking? What would it be like if you couldn't ask for anything? So now I want you to think about this. What would it be like if there was no respect shown for a day? Just think about all your interactions you have, and how would that feel to you? How would that work if there was a day, just like without asking, there was no respect given or shown? So you can imagine that would probably be the worst day of your life, probably. But here I want you to highlight, well, not yet, here, at worst, if this is going on, it could be devaluing, aggressive, and dangerous. And we know there is a lot of violence in the workplace that gets reported regularly on the news these days. And I highlighted this, okay, and this is this is like a foundation quote here in the Peaceful Solution. Respect is the foundation of all positive interactions. Okay, it's like a benchmark quote that we want to remember. That's why I had it up there on the screen for you. And wherever there is respect, there is also safety. Okay, here's some benefits again. Safety, understanding, and true care and concern. Okay, and I highlighted that because the objective is to get the students to see the benefit of wanting to be respectful. So you're going to always want to emphasize that to them and get them thinking, like the question, what would a day be like without it? Okay, and that just would be not a great day. Now, if you could consider the flip side of that, okay, we just said respect is the foundation of all positive interactions, but what is the foundation of all negative interactions? It would be disrespect. Yes, it would be disrespect. And so we have to keep that in our minds. If disrespect is being shown, it is a foundation too. And what is going to be produced from it is negative interactions, negative relationships are going to be forming because of that disrespect. All right, let's continue on here. In the next paragraph, it says, in our society, there are many examples of a lack of respect in the workplace. In the news, it was reported that a passenger on board a commercial plane was disrespectful to a flight attendant. Okay, so this is a news article. The flight attendant, okay, now this is the employee of the airlines, responded by cursing at the passenger. Okay, customer's always right, they usually say, right? But the customer was rude. Getting on the intercom, okay, the flight attendant did more than just curse at the passenger. They got on the intercom, cursing at everyone else on the plane, stealing several beers from a cooler, opening the emergency evacuation chute, sliding from the plane, and running across the tarmac. You could say they had quite a lack of self-control. And interestingly enough, now here is the ironic and the sad part about this whole situation. If that wasn't sad enough that they displayed that behavior, people have been supportive of the flight attendant, and in some circles he has been hailed as a hero because he stood up. He stood up to that passenger on board who, wasn't being respectful to him. So he stood up for himself. And that's a lot of what is encouraged in society today is stand up for yourself. Don't let people push you down or make fun of you or disrespect you. But the way he did this, it just really, as far as the Peaceful Solution goes, would show him to be foolish. Very foolish because, out of this, you would think he would not have a job anymore after all that behavior. So, here we continue here. It says, a hero? How could someone who loses his self-control, self-respect, and respect for others be regarded as a hero? And that's truly what he did. All those character traits that we've been learning about, just right out the window. It appears that many others have wanted to respond with reckless abandon when they have felt disrespected in their workplace and see this attendant's behavior as an excuse to behave disrespectfully in retaliation to difficult customers and bosses. And I'm sure not everyone in society would agree with that behavior, but there's enough people that it mentioned it in this news article. And it says here, it is a sign of our changing times that we have learned to accept disrespectful behaviors as justifiable and even as normal. They're just considered to be normal and okay in society and justifiable, like it says here. Well, he had a right because that passenger was so disrespectful to him. But if you think about the whole situation, what came of that? Do you think that the passenger got humble and apologized for his behavior? Do you think that the flight attendant had his job after that? You see, I mean, nothing great came of either one of their choices in the matter. Now I highlighted this next sentence here. The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program trains people to display positive moral character despite the circumstances they're in. And I underline that, despite the circumstances they're in. But it is up to each person to choose to respond respectfully, regardless of what others say or do. Okay? It's up to each person. And that is something you have to emphasize to your students because you cannot control other people, which is, it's right down here. I'm getting ahead of myself. But the truth is, there will always be someone, always, okay, not, always and never are very concrete statements, right? There will always be someone who rubs us the wrong way. And every one of us is a unique individual with different personalities that, we've learned about that also in the Peaceful Solution, the difference between personality and character. And our character is, the morals we have and the choices that we make to interact with one another. And our personalities are our likes, our dislikes, our little quirks about us, if we're funny or if we're shy, or, all those types of traits that make us the unique individuals. And sometimes those different personalities don't get along all the time. But we have to look beyond personality to see someone's character and their intentions. And when we know their intentions are right and that they're, want to work with us, our personalities just are different, then we can make a choice to say, okay, I understand this person. I understand this is the way they are, but they have great character. And they're striving to even have better character, and I want to get along with them. So, these are the choices as individuals we can teach people that they have the ability to make. And it continues here, people who rub us the wrong way, who either intentionally or unintentionally offends us in one way or another. And did I skip that? No, that's further here. I wanted to show you, this reminded me of the Respect book in the intermediate series, and I just want to show you the page so you can remember this picture. And they talk about this intentional and unintentional disrespect, okay? It's on page 117 in the Respect unit of the intermediate series. And it says here, at the bottom of the page, it says, disrespect can be real or imagined, intentional or unintentional. With so many ways that disrespect can occur, it is up to you to be prepared to deal with each situation appropriately. And a person with a positive moral character will always make an effort to handle even the most difficult situations in a respectful way. So sometimes even the disrespect that we perceive is coming at us is not about us at all, and it might not even be disrespect. So we have to really consider carefully when we're dealing with people, what are their intentions? And regardless of their intentions, the obligation is for us to make a choice to respond in a respectful manner. And I wanted also you to consider this page from the intermediate respect unit also. It's page 143, just so you can see it. Page 143, when the shoe is on the other foot, because a lot of times we talk about disrespect coming at us, okay? But remember my example last time where I was being disrespected, but I also disrespected. But here, listen to this now. But what if the shoe is on the other foot and you are the one who has unintentionally, okay, and that would be the big flashing light word, unintentionally shown disrespect to someone else? Keep in mind that just as you have been taught how to appropriately handle disrespect from others, likewise, you should know how to stop the practice whenever it is brought to your attention. So if someone comes to you and says, I really feel disrespected by what you were doing, and you say, well, I didn't mean to do that. I had, no intentions of doing that. But when it's brought to your attention like that, change the behavior. If something bothers someone, change the behavior so that you show respect. We get into talking about different cultures also in this chapter a little bit, and thinking about, we're not all raised the same, and we're not all from the same place, and we do things differently sometimes, and what one might find disrespectful, another does not. And we have to compensate for that. And if we know someone, from a different culture or country finds something disrespectful, then we wouldn't do it to them, because even if it's not considered disrespectful from where you're from, right? We just wouldn't do it out of respect for them. So those are some references, and that was page 143 in the respect intermediate unit of the respect book. Okay? All right, so down here at the bottom then, of middle of the paragraph, the last paragraph on page 81, it says, we must realize that we have no control over what others choose to do. And I highlighted this. The only person we can control is ourselves, right? Ourselves. And, okay, knowing that fact, we choose how we want to respond to disrespect directed at us. So we have to choose. You saw I underline that word. It's always a choice. Even when we feel like we might be backed in a corner, we're not. We always have a choice of how we're going to behave. And I continued highlighting here, it helps to remember that two wrongs never make a right. The author of The Peaceful Solution, this is what he taught. Like, he was taught this by his father growing up. And his father didn't just say it to him. He showed it in his actions. He taught him, and he saw that example, that even if his father was wronged in a deal or something, or whatever the situation, he didn't retaliate. He didn't show disrespect. He just let it go and moved on. And that, being peaceful in a situation is really, there's a lot to be said for it. You will always find a positive result from that, from choosing to be peaceful instead of confrontational. And I continued highlighting here, so responding with disrespect when we are disrespected will never solve a conflict. And there's a never. Remember the always we had before? Now we have a never. It will never, ever, ever solve a conflict if we choose disrespect. So you see how, this is really important in the Peaceful Solution to stress these things, because many students have never really thought about this. They've never been taught it. They've not had the examples much in their lives to show it. And disrespect is often normal, like I said before, in society. So they need to be given these guidelines now. This is, if you live by this, if you practice this, these will be the beneficial results you get. All right, so that completes procedure 2. We're going to go back to page 77, procedure 3. So back on page 77, it says, tell students that based on our culture and religious beliefs, as well as the environment in which we have been raised, okay, so culture, religious beliefs, and the environment in which we have been raised, that's a lot of influences right there, a lot of influences. We can have different concepts of respect. I just mentioned that, right? However, respect is generally accepted as to have care and concern, esteem and compassion for others, the environment, and ourselves. Okay, so in general, that is the general consensus of pretty much everyone on the planet, right? That's what respect is. But it's not always applied. So, but it is a universal concept, and that was my other, the other reference I had for you from the Building Moral Excellence. I can find it here. Building Moral Excellence unit, and it was page 6. I want to show you that for a moment. Building Moral Excellence, page 6. And you see there in the middle, the importance of moral character. Okay, and I'm just going to read that to you. One of the key factors that separates and distinguishes character from personality is called moral principles. In general, moral or ethical principles are universal. In other words, people from all over the world would agree with them and uphold them. They agree that stealing is not right. No one likes to be stolen from, right? That's one of the general ones. And this showing respect. Everyone deserves respect. If they really think about it, it is true in their lives. They would agree with that. Morals refer to principles or beliefs that govern the way people think and behave. Moral principles clearly separate what is right from wrong, and they are the foundation of character. Okay, so you see how deep this really is, this concept, and that, respect is one of these universal concepts that no one would disagree with, but when the shoe's on the other foot is the issue, really, because it's teaching all of us to continuously remind ourselves to be respectful as well. All right, so now we're going to turn the page to page 78, and there's an activity here. And this is a great activity to do right in the class with the students, and so you have to allot for the time for this for them to do it on the spot. But allot time for students to complete the activity on pages 82 and 83 individually, so just by themselves. And then at the end of the allotted time, allow volunteers to compare and contrast answers, emphasizing similarities and differences, because they will have some similar and some different. So we did contact some people, we reached out to some people and asked them these questions. So let's turn to page 82 here and see what's going on this page. And it says, so just what is respect? And it says, respect is a positive character trait. It enables us to treat others, all property, the environment, and even ourselves in a morally responsible way. Respect is to show care, concern, honor, and esteem towards all. You see that definition on the screen? That's your definition right there, okay? Although some concepts of respect vary from one culture to the next, basic concepts of respect are universal and practiced around the world. So, respect means to show care, concern, honor, and esteem towards all, as you just saw that. Now, let's look at the first question here. What is respect to you? So we reached out a little bit to get some feedback here, all right? What is respect to you? And we have these to put on the screen also. And here were some answers that we got, and some things you might get from your students when they're doing this exercise. Through thoughtful and caring actions and words, okay? That's what one person said was what respect meant to them. By listening when others are speaking, doing all you can to help others in need, and making sure our actions and attitudes are positive. And that was a nice one, because our mindset, our intention is to be positive, it will automatically be respectful pretty much, it's a lot easier to just have respect fall right in line with everything. The next person said, in our conversations and interactions, using kindness with others in all life. So having kindness as a part of, thinking about respect. And here's some more with courtesy and humility. And I thought that was a really great one because, at times, if we're facing disrespect, it takes humility to put respect out to the other person and not let their disrespect, not feed off of that. as in the example with the flight attendant. And then the next person said, in conversation, tone of voice, and facial expressions. And so, just in how we carry ourselves, we're putting out an attitude of respect or disrespect. We can say a lot more with the tone of voice we use when we're speaking with people and how we look at them. Rolling of the eyes is a very common one that most adults would say, children, if they're doing that, or adults doing it to adults, but those are things that people, right away, they will catch and say, oh, that's disrespectful, and it will turn them off. So we want to be mindful of all of our gesturing and just how we're carrying ourselves, really, and how we're speaking to one another. The next person said, acknowledge one another by greeting, saying please and thank you, saying excuse me when someone is in the way and you're needing to get by, and you would think, well, that's pretty obvious, but not everyone does that. Not everyone does that in society today. Some people just push past others. And, so when we have a caring attitude of respect, we are going to consider people around us and be polite. And also, this was a great one too. What is respect to you? It's submitting to authority and showing interest towards someone of a different culture. And I thought that was so great that, do we think about that? Do we think about, or do we only, choose to interact with people that we know and we're comfortable with, but maybe we don't know this person or they're from somewhere else, and so we don't necessarily feel comfortable with them. But if we just, if you encourage your students to just reach out with a smile or a pleasant word, the interactions they'll have with one another will evolve, and they will actually really turn into a great working environment. Okay, so those were some great answers that were submitted. And we're running out of time here, but let's go on to number 2. Okay, question number 2. How do you think respect should be shown? Okay, how do you think respect should be shown? So here are some people's thoughts. Through thoughtful and caring actions and words. Okay, taking the time to think about it. By listening when others are speaking, doing all you can to help others in need, and making sure our actions and attitudes are positive. There's that positivity again, right? And it's all about what we're doing, okay? Because who can we control? I can only control myself, right? I cannot make even my children. I cannot make my employees. No one. I cannot make anybody else have the attitude I choose to have. But I need to choose to have the right attitude. All right. And then in our conversations and interactions, using kindness with others and all life. And I got with courtesy and humility again. I think I did a typo there. I don't know if that's on your screen or not, but and then in conversation, here, I think Can you put that back up on the screen for me so I can see how do we think respect should be shown? See if I can read it off the screen. I have other answers, but they're not on my paper. The question was, how do you think respect should be shown? Can we see those? Thank you. Acknowledging one another by greeting. Okay, I just have a couple that I duplicated. Sorry about that. But also acknowledging one another by greeting, saying please and thank you, saying, okay, excuse me. Okay, so somehow I copied those. I apologize because I have those twice here, and I'm not sure how that took place. Well, anyway, really appreciate everyone for contributing that we reached out to, and if you didn't get asked, don't feel bad. You might get asked in the future, so be ready. You never know what you're going to be asked, but study your books and remember that, remember what it says here, to treat others the way you want to be treated. So getting feedback from your students also, as I've always said, will help you understand where they are at in their understanding. And it's very important to gauge your students, okay, so that you know what they need work on, all right? I appreciate you all tonight for your attention out there in internet land and on the web, and I hope that you enjoy this class, and I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Brittany. Thank you.
All right, everyone, we're going to continue up here on page 82. We're just going to read the quote at the bottom, and it says, "Treat others the way that you want to be treated." And it's funny that we put that in the workplace manual, because treat others the way you want to be treated is the golden rule that you learn when you're a child. And it's something that we hear as you're growing up. And even if it wasn't taught in your home, at one place or another, I'm sure you've heard of the golden rule, to treat others the way you want to be treated. But the fact that we started a few weeks ago, we reminded everyone that we teach respect, we teach asking in kindergarten series. And the fact that it's repeated again in the workplace manual shows us that somewhere along the way, through our course of life, we forget the things that we knew, or we don't find them important, or we don't know how to practice them anymore. So I found that interesting that we put that in here, to treat others the way you want to be treated, because as we go forward, we're going to talk a little bit more about it, but knowing how to treat someone with respect and treating someone with respect are two totally different things. And we're going to hopefully get into that a little bit more tonight. So we're going to flip over to page 83. And we went over a lot here on respect. Okay, so respect means to show care and concern for others. Okay, so disrespect is what we're going to go into now. And what are some behaviors that you find disrespectful? And again, we did send out a question, and we got quite a few answers from our class here. And it says, what are some behaviors that you find to be disrespectful? One is trespassing or hurtful words or actions toward others or oneself, not being honest and not keeping your word, showing a lack of interest in taking instructions, talking back to justify your actions when being corrected, when someone is using foul language at another person, cursing and uncontrolled conduct, and ignoring the presence of others, not being kind or caring towards others, oneself, or the environment, and even property. And there's two on there that I want you to really key in on because it stuck out to me. And one is not showing respect to others or to oneself. That's also a form of disrespect. And another one that was on there is having out-of-control conduct, where I tell little ones when I work with them that when you work with children, when you work with teens, even when you work with adults, we all have a lot going on in our lives. And when you walk into a workplace, people expect you to have a bad moment, if we're being honest. And I tell this to so many people that I come in contact with, that I expect you to have a bad day. I expect you to lash out at me at some point. I expect you to have a hard morning and then I'm just the first person that you see and I catch the bad end of the deal. I expect that. But there's a point that you get to where somebody is really trying hard at being that disrespectful. Like, you have to work at being that disrespectful. And that's the point that we're saying, okay, that's not okay. That's when you have to recognize that this isn't just a bad day. This isn't just an offhand moment. This isn't just where I lost control for 1 second. This is a continuous thing. This is a pattern. This is a behavioral trait. This is a part of my character. And that's when we have to take a step back, be honest with ourselves, and recognize that there's something in my character, there's something in my thoughts, there's something that I'm allowing to influence me that is causing me to behave or to treat others this way, and that's what we're really targeting. We're not saying that, you shouldn't be disrespectful at any point. If you get to that point, that is wonderful and that is amazing. But we are human, and we understand that people are going to slip up. We understand that you're going to have a bad day. We understand that situations come up. But it's once you recognize that it's a habit, being honest and being willing to change that and put the effort into doing it. It's like saying, I can't believe the world is going the way it is. Well, you need to change, you need to change this, or you need to not do this. Well, I'm not changing anything. Okay, well, we have to recognize that in order to change our workplace, in order to change society, in order to change our family and the way that we interact with one another, we have to change the way we're doing it and not just expect it to change. Okay, so continuing on page 83. It says, many people strive hard to treat others respectfully, They are polite, they ask to use or to borrow the possessions of others, they use proper language when speaking, and they refrain from making sexual comments or advances and would never speak against the cultural or the religious practices of others. So there are people who are like this, who strive to be polite. They strive to, put others' needs above themselves. They strive to not, belittle or to speak against cultural beliefs. And Jennifer went over that in the first portion of class, talking about how you can have unreal or you can have imagined disrespect to where somebody might not be aware of your religious or your cultural beliefs. And they disrespect you in that way because they honestly are not aware that that form is disrespectful or that speaking to you in that way is disrespectful. They might not be aware of it. But, however, continuing on page 83, it says there are always exceptions to the rules. And when we experience these acts of disrespect, it can leave us feeling shocked and overwhelmed. Not knowing how to respond, we can make a wrong choice and make the situation worse. How we choose to handle disrespect, and I have this underlined because it's so important, this last sentence. How we choose to handle disrespect from others speaks volumes about our own moral character and our own self-respect. Okay, so you want to really underline that and focus on that when you are teaching, because again, people expect you to have a bad day. People expect you to fall into these situations. That's expected. But when it becomes a part of our character and it becomes a part of who we are, and we have that reputation and we become known as that person, that's when we have to take a step back and we have to be willing to acknowledge that a change needs to take place. All right, and if you want a reference, for those who have been following us for a while here, in the Respect Unit, Chapter 5, the chapter is entitled How to Respond to Disrespect. That chapter goes into a lot of details on how to respond to disrespect, how to handle it when you're in a situation here. And I think I have. Here, let's see. So this is the Respect Unit, Chapter 5. For how to respond to disrespect, but I want to give you another cross-reference that I have here. This is the self-control unit, page 107. So since we're talking about how to respond to disrespect, the self-control unit, page 107, and that's where we have the RESPOND acronym. Okay, so just for you to have in your notes, and we'll go into that more as we go on through this. But so you have that in your notes, the RESPOND acronym on self-control unit, page 107. All right, now remember, when somebody disrespects you, always have in your mind that it might not always be on purpose. Sometimes we can create ideas in our heads and we're already going through something or we already have an idea. And, we talk a lot in the Peaceful Solution about setting your mind in advance. And it's so important that, yes, we set our mind in advance that disrespect might come up. And we set our mind in advance that I'm going to have a great day. No matter what goes on around me, no matter what, curveballs, pitfalls hit me, I'm going to still hold my head high. I'm going to have a great day. But sometimes we're not in control of the situation, and we're not in control. And so when we are in that situation, sometimes we can have somebody do something, and we're like, that was on purpose. Like, I seen them in the corner, they were talking to her, then she walked over to her, then they grabbed that, and then they made sure that it got to my table, and they made sure that it did this. So we've created this idea that has it on purpose, when in reality, none of any of those things had anything to do with the thing that ended up on our desk or on our table. But because we already had something in our mind, it created and it tied all these things in together when really it wasn't there. Okay, so on page 83, and we have a slide for this, disrespect results in. And here's a list of things, of ways that disrespect can result in the workplace. It could result in conflicts, anxiety, hurt feelings, low self-worth, low motivation, insecurities, low morale, and poor job performance. And these are just a few of the ways that disrespect can result in the workplace. And it can halt people. And, just simple things here with, low self-worth and anxiety and low morale. If you don't have confidence that you can do the job, then you're going to do the job very poorly. Because no one can give you that confidence. No one can give you the abilities and the talents. You can learn them from others, but if you don't have the confidence that you can fulfill that morale is going to stay down. All right, so the bottom of page 83 says, did you know that strained relationships between employees account for 60 to 70% of unproductive time and difficult situations. Your managers are spending anywhere from 25% to 40% of their time managing conflicts. And misunderstandings and tension among employees can expose your organization to lawsuits, discrimination cases, and even violent behaviors. Okay, and really think about the first and the last one. If you have a strained relationship and if you have misunderstandings, if you have a work area where things have to go through different chains of command or different levels to get approved, and then it has to come back down, and you have somebody on level 1 and level 3, and they had a misunderstanding and they refuse to talk to one another, how do you think that's going to work? If you're ignoring their text, you're ignoring their calls, you won't talk to them in person, the emails are not, you can delete them, oh, I never got them, when, the next level gets there. It slows down the performances, but it also it loses that trust, and it loses that foundation of teamwork that keeps, your workplace going. And when you have that broken foundation of trust, you have that broken teamwork, nothing can flow after that, and it just ripples out and keeps going. All right, so that concludes procedure 4. So we're going to go over to page 78 and go into procedure 5. All right, so procedure 5 is actually page 83, so that's what we just did here. All right, so procedure 5 is where it says disrespect results in. That actually begins procedure 5. I apologize, I mixed that up. So procedure 5 on page 78, it says it explained that when others are disrespectful to us, it can leave us feeling upset, humiliated, embarrassed, and other such feelings. Ask students what are some other results of disrespect, and then choose students to read the section disrespect results in, found on page 83, and that's what we just did here, under disrespect results in. So that's actually procedure 5. So we completed that one here. So we're going to go into procedure 6. Okay, so procedure 6 on page 78 says ask students in what ways does disrespect manifest itself in the workplace. Okay, and again, because we're streaming online, we're not engaging our audience, but when you're teaching this in a workplace setting, whether you have managers, whether you have employees, you're going to want to take a lot of time on this. Get to know their ideas, like we did in the previous with respect. Okay, what do you think respect is? How do you think respect should be shown? What do you see as disrespect? Because then you can get their ideas. You can see what the understanding that they already have. You can see their viewpoints, their backgrounds, their history. All of that ties in here. Well, when you get to this, okay, how does disrespect manifest in your work area? How have you noticed it? How have you encountered disrespect lately? How can you see if this one thing continues on, what will it lead into? How will it grow? Right, so we would really engage that and get to know them personally, but the answers they give us here is that it can include sexual harassment or inappropriate sexual behavior, taking or touching someone's belongings without permission, being rude to a customer or a coworker. And those are just a few examples here, but you would engage them and you would get their ideas. And then if they give something that's not quite according to what the Peaceful Solution is teaching or what we're trying to get across in this lesson, then you would guide them back and say, I can see your point of view, but have you considered this? And always lead them back, because a lot of the times it's not that we're not aware of it, it's that we're not conscious of the fact that we are aware of it. And so sometimes we just have to lead them back to understand it. It says have students read the scenarios and complete the exercises on page 84 through 89. Discuss the answers focusing on the main points. Emphasize the need to be respectful towards our coworkers, regardless of a nationality or religious beliefs, and to never laugh at or agree with disrespectful behaviors. Okay, so we're going to turn over to page 84. So page 84, and we're going to go into scenario A. It says putting it into practice. Read the following scenarios and determine what you would do if you were in a similar situation. Answer the questions below. All right, so the answers in this, because you have a teacher's manual, the answers in this book can be found on pages 78 to 79 for this one here. All right, so page 84, scenario A. It says, Jane works in a treatment facility for abused and neglected children. Every week, the case managers and child care staff meet to discuss the progress of the children in their care. On this particular day, Jane was asked to share her concerns about a child who was recently admitted. As she spoke, William, one of the case managers, sighed and rolled his eyes. Jane pretended she did not notice, and she continued speaking. Finally, William said out loud, "Have you received any training at all? You don't even know what you're talking about." All right, now imagine you're in this situation, right? And you're at a treatment facility for abused and neglected children. Okay, just have this, really plant this in your mind. And you have a staff of childcare people who are all coming together to see what they can do to benefit this child's life. And this is one of the adults who are working with them. Talking down to a coworker. Looking down on this person, disrespecting them in the middle of a staff meeting. Really think about that, because in working at this facility, you can see that they recognize that disrespect is a problem. They deal with children who are abused regularly. They deal with children who are neglected regularly. But we see as an adult, someone who can see the problem, they're part of the solution. They work at this facility to try to help children to overcome this, but they're disrespectful to their fellow staff members. And I just want you to kind of link that back to, we can understand what respect is, we can know what disrespect is, but applying respect and recognizing our contribution to disrespect isn't always black and white, and it's not always a clear picture, especially if we feel that we're justified or we have a reason into why we're disrespecting someone. Like here, he didn't feel that she had the sense enough to make a decision. He said here, "Have you not received any training at all? You don't even know what you're talking about." But if he had an open mind, he could see that she might have been targeting the situation in a way that nobody had thought about before. She might have a way to help these children that nobody had reached them before, because this wasn't used. All right, so going into question number 1, it says, how do you think Jane felt as the recipient of such a disrespectful action and remark? All right, so how do you think Jane felt in that situation? She could feel confused, embarrassed, and probably a little angry, because she's trying to offer a solution here, and she's being put down in front of her entire staff, people who are all working there with her. All right, question 2. How could Jane respond respectfully to this situation? And we see she maintained a lot of self-control, because the entire time she was giving her presentation, he was sighing loudly, he was rolling his eyes, he was making it well known that he did not find much interest in what she was saying. So she already had a lot of control. But now that he's spoken up and said something, how can she respond respectfully? An example they give us here is that she could say something like, "This is my honest evaluation of this child, and my desire is to help her." So it's not confrontational, it's not pushing boundaries, it's just saying, okay, this is what I have to give, this is what my ideas are, what are your ideas? And they're leaving the floor open to say, like, I'm not proud enough to think that I'm the only one who can help them. I'm willing to recognize that, okay, this is my ideas based on what I know. She might be new here, she might not have a lot of background training, but we're recognizing and having that humble attitude as a team to see that there's something that you can contribute that I could learn from you. Even though you're being disrespectful, I'm recognizing that there's something of value that you have that I can learn from and I can contribute. Okay, question number 3. What are some consequences that could result from Jane handling the situation disrespectfully? Okay, so it's not always easy to maintain respect and self-control when you're in that situation, especially when it's in a coworker and it's in, somebody you feel comfortable with or somebody you look up to or you admire. But a consequence could cause an argument between the coworkers, and it could disrupt the way they work together in seeking the help of those children. and looking, getting completely off target and off point there. All right, so the bottom of page 84, it says, it can be humiliating when a coworker intentionally disrespects us by devaluing our suggestions and our opinions. Seldom are we prepared to successfully handle this level of disrespect. Our feelings of embarrassment and humiliation can cause us to either internalize our feelings or verbally retaliate with a disrespectful, cutting retort. Both of those choices can backfire, causing even greater problems. And remember, back in the self-control unit, we learned that anger is a secondary emotion. So you've experienced something before you get to anger. So it could be embarrassment, it could be humiliation. Okay, so now we're angry. But once you get to that point, and remember, being angry isn't a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's how we handle that anger. It's how we handle that situation, and do we let it escalate, or do we get it under control and seek somebody to either help us mediate the situation or talk us through it and help us calm down and figure out the best way to deal with it. Right? It says internalizing negative feelings can lead to health problems such as ulcers, high blood pressure, and headaches, as well as low productivity and a lackadaisical attitude towards others in our work environment. Retaliating could result in a conflictive situation that could quickly degenerate into verbal or physical abuse. Responding respectfully when we are being intentionally disrespected can be challenging, but it can be done if we use our self-control and set high standards for our own conduct. You can set your mind in advance to never compromise your moral character and high standards because of someone else's disrespectful behavior towards you. And that goes along with setting our mind in advance. Okay, remember here it says set your mind in advance to never compromise your moral character. So setting our mind in advance to prepare for disrespect, sometimes when we set our mind in advance that we know that when I left yesterday, I had this to do, and when I get back on my table, I know where I have to go with this file next. And I know how they're going to react, and I already have my mind prepared to deal with when they say this, and then she says this, and then he's going to say this, and we already have the whole thing, so our mind is set. That we actually already experience all of the negative emotions that come with that situation. Because we set our mind in advance, but we prepared our mind to already experience all of these negative emotions. So it's important that when we set our mind in advance to never compromise our moral character, we remember that setting our mind in advance is focusing on the only person we can control, which is ourselves. So when I go to work, that might occur, but I'm going to stay cool. I'm going to remember this. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to be doing this. So remember that setting our mind in advance also takes into focus the only person we can control. So then we don't already deal with it. So then when you do experience it, your body is experiencing it twice because you already went through it once in your mind, and now you're physically going through it all over again. All right, the bottom of page 84, it says, think about it. If someone spoke to you with dirt on his face, would you put dirt on your face too? If someone is disrespectful towards you, does that make it okay for you to be disrespectful back? And that it's kind of funny when you think about it, but really, if somebody talked to you and they had dirt all over their face, would you have to go get dirt on your face before they talk to you or before you would talk to them? You wouldn't do that. It sounds ridiculous. But whenever we're disrespected, do we have to even the score? Like, do we have to make sure they feel half as bad as they just made us feel? Because, it takes a lot of control, but the admiration that you have in knowing that you walked away from a disrespectful situation and you kept your cool, you were able to control yourself, you were able to, stay under control, the feeling that comes with that is something that it's not a reward or a tangible thing. It's a sense of accomplishment in your own mind. All right, the bottom of page 84 says, never fight fire with fire. And you can reference that to the respect unit on page 115, where it says that disrespect just adds fuel to the fire. Okay, so adding more disrespect to disrespect, it just adds fuel to the fire. And I want to give you some cross-references here for this scenario here, because remember, when we're going in to teach this lesson, your students are only going to have this book. The people in that workplace are only going to have this book. But as the teacher, we have the knowledge of everything we've learned through the Peaceful Solution so far. So I want to give you some references so you'll have them for this. And it is the respect unit here page 118. Okay, so respect unit, page 118, and it says, be prepared. You mean I should be prepared to be shown disrespect? The reality is that not everyone at this time is trying to develop a positive character. There are people who are deliberately disrespectful, and it's so important that we remember that and we understand that though we are striving and though we're trying to teach this to a workplace or a place of employment where they see that disrespect is abounding, and it's in abundance right now, that there are people who willingly seek out to be disrespectful. They have fun in it and they get some kind of satisfaction. But it says you should definitely be prepared to deal with disrespectful behavior in whatever form it might come. Does this mean that you should walk around expecting people to disrespect you? Absolutely not. Being prepared simply means to work hard at developing a positive character and setting your mind in advance to respond in a peaceful manner. It says if you are not prepared to deal with disrespectful behavior, you could be tempted to react impulsively. And an impulsive action is one that is done without careful thought or consideration of the consequences. All right, another reference here is also the respect unit, page 101 and 102. So respect unit, page 101 and 102. It says if there are rules guiding and instructing people towards the proper way to treat others, why do people disrespect each other in society? The answer to this question is both simple and complex. Many factors contribute to this, and there's three leading ones, which is it is what people are taught, the choices that they make, and how media influences and affects our choices. Okay, so those three things go into that because there are rules and guidelines set throughout the world today. I mean, we all know that stealing is wrong, but how many people are arrested for stealing every day? We all know that murder, to steal and to take someone's life, is wrong. How many people are arrested and put into prison for murder every single day? We know that abusing and neglecting a child is disrespectful and it is wrong, but it is done every single day. We know that assault and harassment is wrong, but it's a choice that is made every single day. So we can see, again, it goes back to knowing what respect is and respecting someone is two totally different things. We know what right is and we can know what wrong is, but it's not always black and white depending on what we've been taught, depending on the influences around us, and depending on the foundation of the education that we have been given. And it's so important to keep that in our mind as we go forward and teach this, because a lot of the times people make bad choices, people develop negative reputations, but a lot of it is because they don't have the education or they don't have the support system to show them that, hey, you're going off track, you don't have to keep going and falling off the wagon. I can help you get back on track. You're not on your own and you don't have to continue going this way. All right, so we're going to end there on the bottom of page 84. So next class, we will pick up on page 85, scenario B. Okay, so next class, page 85, scenario B. I thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you were able to take something to grow with this, and I hope that you continue to tune in and to join us so that we can grow and we can complete this unit and become teachers of the peaceful solution and bring peace and joy back to our workplace where it belongs. I thank you for tuning in, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Bye.